Hi. Our article was the 5 problems facing American youth ministry. This was broken up into 5 separate parts. This is my review of it. The parts were starting off with weak youth ministry ecclesiology, limited teaching on other world religions, the gospel, meaning sin, redemption, Jesus, cross, freedom, forgiveness, and it's extremely foreign to the youth culture. It's hurried evangelism, and youth pastors are not teaching students how to think critically. These were 5 very interesting subtexts to look into. I found each of these to have a little piece that was very relevant to today's society and youth ministry. Very interesting. The first one was a little hard to truly understand from my perspective of the weakened ecclesiology, but one of the main issues with it was that they talk about how the youth ministry has a little bit of a problem connecting and participating in the church body, and that the students don't really like the feel of the big church and being part of that, and they become a little bit isolated from that. The other is the limitation in teaching other world religions, and I really liked this part of the article because they talk about that we should really open up in teaching other parts and other religions a little bit, and at least exploring it and letting our youth ministry kind of understand that before it becomes us versus them. For example, in Islam, they talk about all kinds of different religions, and the author talks about finding these things out for himself and even exploring other holy books in order to be able to better explain that. The third was gospel, and I think it's a problem, but it's a major advantage because it's normative and it becomes comfortable and popular, and the idea is that everything popular is wrong, and that's the thing is Jesus wasn't really popular. Which was a very interesting insight into this, and that getting kids to acknowledge that they're a little messed up on the side, that Jesus can restore that life is a unique message, and the difficulty is persuading kids why Jesus matters, and that He is the only way. And then hurried evangelism. Ministries are excited to get kids saved, and I think that's something that even back in my day, that was a huge thing. It was a hurried situation. It was a very big numbers count, and I know that from my perspective, it was very big. It was a big situation about taking numbers of who could be saved. But this particular author talks about discipleship over evangelism, and what if we started with discipleship first and then moved into evangelism? And then finally, youth pastors are not teaching students how to think critically, and one main perspective in this piece of the article is that it's a difficult task because they need to swing extremes in order to develop a healthy worldview. And that's a really difficult task. And that hard situation that they need to feel encouraged. And that, the saying of when students say, I cannot feel God, I don't believe Him anymore. And, youth pastors shouldn't freak out, but rather help students to ask the right questions. And I think that was a really key point in this article, and how to really structure that down. And that it's an issue, but it's not one that should keep us from having a sustainable youth